Greetings and salutations, motorsport lovers, race fans, and others. And a very special welcome to cross-country and dirt lovers. We have a great show today. We're going to be talking Kalahari Rally and what it means to the Southern African rally contingent, South African motorsport fans, and in fact, global motorsport fans. I'm joined by Andrew Horn, the Horn Dog, who is going to be driving the comments section. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing? I hope you're well.
Yeah, all good. And you? You look like you're still in your sim, but the background's changed a bit.
Background's changed from GT3 cars, and we are now dirting because we love sand, we love petrol, and we love the desert. And let's get straight to it. We are joined today by Garth and Darryl Curtis, and we're going to be talking Kalahari Rally. Garth and Darryl, thank you very much for joining us. Garth, you the rally director of Kalahari Rally 2020.
That's right, Colin. Thank you very much for having us and this Raceday team. So looking forward to the interview.
Awesome. And Darryl Curtis, for those of you who know motorsport, needs no introduction. Multiple enduro champion, won the Roof of Africa more times than people can remember. And since, Darryl, 2014, you are the official ASO Southern African Liaison Officer. Welcome, Darryl. Good to talk to you again.
Thanks very much, guys. Good to be on the show.
First of all, let's talk with Garth, and we'll get to Darryl, why it's so cool that we've got ASO Liaison Officer with us. Garth, we've had no motorsport apart from cross-country, one of the cross-country championship events, and guys are itching at the bit. Kalahari Rally 2020. It's a multiple stage event, a kind of mini Dakar experience. How the plan's getting going, and are we looking on track for when our house arrests get lifted, that we can go and play in the desert?
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, everybody's got serious withdrawal symptoms. You know, the petrol leads want to get going. So, a lot of guys have been building their cars and their bikes and getting ready for the first event that starts, straight after the lockdown opens. So, as far as KR is concerned, Kalahari Rally 2020, our plans and logistical plans, route plans, the planning to check the roads is on track for the moment. Obviously, a lot of it hinges on what the government says and when we're allowed to move between provinces. The Northern Cape and Northwest is looking good in terms of the movement we can, to get into those in between the two provinces to go and check the roadbooks. Hannes and I have been, our route director, which we had in the previous show, have been in conference calls for the last week just to permutations in respect of when we're allowed to go and when if in case we cannot go. So at the moment we're looking good to get our planning and our route checks done, which is the most important part is the roadbooks. Most of the other stuff we can do behind the scenes, behind a laptop. But the roadbooks is everything. Your route checks are everything for a rally. So but we're on track as we speak.
Okay, so the concept of the event is, unlike a lot of other rallies where you've got one centralized park, this is a kind of like a great trek. We have a super special that determines starting positions, and then we move through to bivouac. We've got liaisons, kind of sounding like a 6-stage mini Dakar event.
Colin, that's exactly. It's I wouldn't say mini Dakar. Dakar is obviously the pinnacle, and it's the pinnacle of our sports. So that's what everyone has to. Kalahari is a platform for competitors to test themselves to see if they can actually make the Dakar and finish it. So the event itself lends itself for competitors to actually and see if they can actually finish the event. So you take 6 stages. Yes, Dakar's got 12 stages. Darryl will correct me what's going to be for 2020. 2020. So we got 6 stages of Kalahari plus a prologue or super special stage. But the super it's very, very difficult roadbooks. The roadbooks are where Dakar is an average of between 2 and 4 kilometers on a tulip. A tulip is the picture, the instruction for the competitor or the driver to see where to go to. With Kalahari, we're an average of 500 meters, between 500 meters and a kilometer every tulip. So it's a very, very busy roadbook. And that's where the difference comes in, is that Kalahari is an area or platform where competitors that are starting out with Dakar or they want to train for Dakar in terms of nav, we focused on that, which brings our average speeds down drastically. We were averaging, like I said, the last show was 50, 60 kilometers an hour, whereas Dakar is much faster. It's a different style of event. Whereas Kalahari is focused a lot more on navigation as well as the driver. So that regard, that is how the Kalahari is set up. And the multi-stage event, yes, you're correct. The bivouac moves about this year, it will move 4 times. And the bivouac being your pit area or your camp area. And the bivouac being pit or camp area in French. And it moves, like I said, 4 times. The whole logistical team has to move, as you see there on the screen, there's a picture. All of that whole setup has to move, from the timing, the officials, the medical team, the field trucks, everything has to move every single day. So it's been a big event for 5 or 6 days with all those logistics, and that's what it comes down to. That's the fun part about it. And you know, for the competition.
Okay, so that gives us an idea of the event. By saying mini Dakar, I didn't mean that, I mean mini. It's in concept, similar concept. Darryl, from an ASO point of view, you've been since, 2014, you've done 2 Dakars, you've ridden them, you've competed in them, but you've done, since 2012 was your first Dakar, this year was the most recent. You've ridden in 3 of them, but the function that you fulfill for the South African competitors, just fill us in on what it is to be the Southern African Liaison Officer for SRO, or ASO, sorry, Amarai Sports Organization. I'm getting GT racing and cross country confused. ASO.
Well, basically, I'm a stepping stone for the competitors to reach the ASO. So in the past, they've always been notoriously difficult to get hold of and to communicate with. And now it's really easy. I get a lot of information from them, and then I'm able to share it with competitors here in South Africa. And also, I've got a very powerful PowerPoint presentation that I run everybody through and help them also prepare, let them know what they're in for, and also give them a bit of information on how to raise sponsors and exactly how the inner workings of the Dakar work and what to do to prepare themselves.
And you've been an immense help. Kirsten Landman benefited a lot from your help prior to this year's race. It's kind of more than just a link between the organizers. You've got a passion for racing and really try and build up and help competitors, both on bikes and cars, going to Dakar.
Yeah, it's they are welcome to call me at any time, and often they pop in and visit me, and they run me through their sponsorship proposals and things like that, and I just coach them, and and rather instead of doing a sponsorship proposal, rather do a media package for your sponsors and things like that. And just really, one of the biggest problems that we've had is the qualifying event. So when you look at a motorcycle rider, he's got a budget that's well over R1 million. Yeah. Oh, and he has to go qualify, and he's got to go to Dubai, or he's got to go to Morocco to the Bazooka Rally, and he's got to shell out another 250,000 Rand. And that's why we're so grateful. We've been working very hard to get the Kalahari on board as a qualifying event in the Road to Dakar for South African competitors. For the motorcycle,
it's for motorcycles.
The cars
yes, don't really have to qualify, but bikes have to.
Correct, and that's because of the high danger. We had 2 fatalities in January of this year, and that's really what the ASO is trying to avoid. So the qualification is about making sure that the competitors are able to ride a motorcycle at speed and for they're in a relatively fit condition, and they've done well at other rallies around the world, FIM rallies, and that would then qualify them to go and be able to enter the Dakar in the first place.
And also that they can, I mean, it's one thing riding with your mates across the desert, some bush and desert and all the rest of it, and having fun. But another, pushing yourself from a speed point of view whilst navigating and reading the book. And those two, their level of attention on the navigation and level of attention on the road to try and qualify that and to quantify it for riders.
And that's why a race like the Kalahari is so essential, because the guys need to learn how to use the road book. So what makes the Dakar dangerous for a motorcycle rider? Well, first of all, you get the guy that's going to go ride the Dakar just to have the experience. He's going to tick it off his bucket list, and he's going to ride at a pace where he's in control. He's going slowly enough to read the road book and to not miss a tulip and find his way. And then you get the guys in the middle that are really trying to prove a point. They've taken sponsorship money and they want to get a result. And often these are the guys that are going a little bit over their limit, end up crashing now, because you can't go, you can ride a motorcycle fast, but you can't do both together. Yeah. And then you get the guys that are trying to get into the top 10, and that's when it becomes exceptionally dangerous, because these guys are absolutely on the limit, and any small little mistake that they make in the road book, they're going to end up in hospital. And you fall off. The problem with the rally is that high-speed crashes, 9 times out of 10, the guy's going to go to hospital. Yeah. It's a helicopter case. And the Kalahari rally, they were actually complaining that the navigation was too difficult. So what I saw was drivers and navigators in the car having these fights, because the driver wanted to drive fast and the navigator had to pull him back and say, I can't navigate that fast. Yeah. And we saw massive fighting in the bit, and the bit the second day, and on the third day it was like, wow, this is the best thing that I've ever done. This is the best preparation that I could ever have done for the Dakar. And they started driving slower, and it was the best value that they could get in terms of navigating. And every one of them said, like Henny de Klerk, for example, when he went to Dakar, the thing that helped me the most by going to the Dakar was by doing the rally.
I want to get back to some of that, Darryl. Andrew, you've got some questions, comments, queries, stuff already for us.
I've got one for Garth. In terms of your bivouac and your setup, you look at the Dakar bivouacs, and they've got a sort of, haven't they got a ladder system where they've got one bivouac here and they sort of leapfrog each other as the race goes on? How much stuff are you moving around in terms of fuel, food, tents, and facilities between stages? And then, talk to us a bit on the time period that people have to pack up that bivouac and make that happen, because that's a hell of a logistical task.
Andrew, thanks for the question. Okay, like Dakar's bivouacs, Darryl probably answered. I know the old Dakar used to have 2 bivouacs moving on with Antonovs, those big planes. The newer Dakar uses smaller planes, but it's still a big thing to move. But the Kalahari rally, our logistic, we're moving vehicles around. We've got a bit of assistance with some of the teams that we use the trucks. Our budget is not as big. So obviously we try and keep the cost as low as possible for the competitor to be able to spend most of his money on himself rather than on the entry fees. And it sounds stupid or crazy. I'm a rally racer, and so I always got the rider's hat on rather than the organizer, which I get nailed for every time. However, so yes, there's a lot of stuff that gets moved around. To give you an idea, myself and the timing guy had to leave on stage 1. We had to leave at 9 o'clock at night and drive 500 Ks so we could be ready the next morning at 5 o'clock for the start of the next stage. To give you an idea, you sleep very little as the organizers and the timing guys. There's a lot of logistics that does move around, and sometimes you do get it wrong. The fuel trucks have to be moved, and then you get this dirt road that you can only drive at 40 kilometers an hour on this big fuel tanker. And it gets a bit interesting, and you start making plans. So the logistics is a huge, huge part of the event as an organizer. Interesting,
very interesting.
Interesting point you brought up there, Garth, the amount of sleep. Darryl, from we know on Dakar, sleep deprivation is a trick. Is something definite to be reckoned with. Are ASO looking at at levels of how competitors can handle those long days on end in a smaller event before they're comfortable with them tackling the real thing?
Yes, most definitely. And some of the stages last year, as an organizer, it's very difficult to measure the length of the stages. So Garth luckily had a safety net in place. When the day was dragging out too much, they were very professional about the way that they cut their stages and things like that. But definitely, the Kalahari Rally is not a race where you're going to ride 4 hours in the day. It's some days some of the guys are riding for 10 or up to 12 hours in the saddle, especially if they've had a problem along the way. So that's why I say it is a very good endurance tester, and it will make a very good qualifier for the Dakar. I think it's at the right level.
Absolutely awesome. Garth, the level of entries, look, unfortunately with this bloody lockdown, and well, we understand the reasons, but let's put all the goodness out of it. It's frustrating for the rest of us in terms of entries and when we give the green light to it. We've spoken to a couple of competitors off the record, and the level of interest that I'm seeing, and particularly from the car guys, is very, very high.
Colin, thanks for that. Yeah, that's really good news to hear that, and it's nice that, this is a big buzzword in the media, obviously, is the fact check. So I'm glad you guys did your fact check and not just taking my word or Darryl's word. I see a big smile there from Andrew doing this. Yes, as far as the competitors and the interest, what we call it, the expression of interest, has been very good, especially from Europe. We've had some competitors calling us this week from Italy. We've got a very big contingency from France, the ex-factory Sherco rider, Alan Dubro, 5 guys, side-by-sides and bikes. And then we've got a big Belgian contingency as well. The Dutch are always there, so we're expecting anywhere between 2 and 6 Dutch competitors, car and side-by-side and a couple of bikes. And then I actually had a phone call this morning with a potential 2022 Dakar rider from Botswana. He actually spoke to Darryl as well, and this is exactly what Kalahari is about, is to create a platform for a guy like Botswana. Doesn't have to spend the 250 or 300k to go and qualify overseas. He can now qualify here. So we've got another Botswana rider going to go to Dakar, and then there's a few South Africans as well. So in a nutshell, the expression of interest from the competitors has been very good. Like I said, when the lockdown is lifted, competitors will then start entering. It makes sense. It doesn't make sense not to accept entry until the lockdown's over. We've extended the early bird rate, the cheaper rate. We've got time to play with in terms of that, in that regard. So the buzz has been good out there, and the fact that you just mentioned now, Colin, as far as the car competitors are excited about, that's really great, even greater news as far as cars are concerned.
How many entries would you, if you, in a dream world, you said, right, bikes, cars, and don't forget the side-by-sides, because that's another storm coming, side-by-side racing. How many entries would you, in a dream world, would you say, wow, I'm blown?
Truth be told, the first Kalahari, we wanted more entries, and it was a blessing in disguise. We had a much lower entry rate, and we could manage the stages better. So the entry has a direct impact on the logistical planning, as what Darryl mentioned as well, with your stages and then you cut off your stages. It really does impact it in a huge way, and we saw that from 2018. We carried over to 2019. So to answer your question, to have 200-300 entries would be fantastic, even 100 entries. But truth be told, I think, honestly, we'd like in a range between 40 and 60 entries. That is a good, manageable solution for Kalahari right now, that we can grow with the event as well as with competitors, that we don't overextend our logistics and our support structure that we've got. Remember, it also affects your medical support. Yeah. It affects your marshal, your recovery team. So you get too many entries, then you will fall short. So greed creeps in sometimes with organized, and I feel that, and I say this with the greatest amount of respect, I don't badmouth anybody. It's just for our solution, that would work for now, and we want to grow slowly. We don't want to jump the gun too quick.
Darryl, but this is not just for riders or drivers who want to go and test themselves and use it as a Dakar precursor. It's also can be one hell of an adventure and super race. Yeah, on its
bring
own.
that up. So yeah, we've got a very healthy cross-country series in South Africa. You know, that's the SAC series. So that's where a lot of car competitors are at the moment. But the rally is a lot different. So if you remember the rally, the way that it originated, the Paris-Dakar, but people, going through the desert with no GPSs or no anything. And that was the true spirit of adventure. And that is what rally is about. And something that Garth missed just now, you were talking about infrastructure and logistics. So in Saudi in January, the ASO has around 6 different bivouac setups that they go and, because you get to the next bivouac, but how could they have moved all this stuff? It's like a complete village, but they've got 6 sets of it. And there's a lot of money that's gone into buying that infrastructure and having it set up, where the Kalahari Rally basically draws the communities in. So in each little town, you've got community involvement, which is fantastic. So they use the town hall, for example, and all of the ladies from the town will come and make food. At one of the pans on the start of one of the mornings, all the locals were there. They were making bacon and eggs for all the competitors. And sometimes they weren't even charging money and things like that. So the spirit of the rally and the spirit are more about the adventure, the friendships that are made, time spent in the bivouac together, and that feeling of being out in big, wide open spaces. And I think as soon as this lockdown is over, the people are going to go ahead into the open spaces that we're longing for right now.
I mean, we talk about open spaces. Just look at some of these names: Dagterbos, Heuningvlei, Kleinmeer. This is all Kleinmeer, just next to the Huxkeen Pun, and one of the stages actually goes right next to Huxkeen Pun. Van Sailsrus, Dagterbos, and Skilpadsnek. This is Northern Cape desert country area, and you mentioned the villages and the little communities there, the friendliness and the gees of the people in this area is unbelievable. So, I mean, that spirit of adventure is, I'm looking forward to checking this out.
I saw parts of South Africa that I've never seen before. The red sand up in that little hookie there of South Africa, the most northern point there, running up next to Namibia there and on the Botswana border. We went right in there, and I tell you what, it is breathtaking. The fact that we can go and ride our motor vehicles and our bikes through this area is a privilege.
It truly is. And Darryl, a biker, somebody, I meet lots of guys, they've got proper, well, for me, they look like proper bikes, and they go do a lot of enduro stuff. At what sort of level would you say to somebody, take your bike and go and have an adventure, have a go at this thing? At what, I mean, just as an experience, not to go and compete, not to try and win, but just go for the experience. At what sort of level would you say someone should have a go at it?
It should definitely be somebody that's had some experience, somebody that's come out of the GXE racing series, somebody that has been used to speed, and somebody that's possibly ridden some of the bigger adventure bikes and has a fair amount of experience. Those are the guys that should be going there. Not necessarily an absolute novice, because as you can see there, the thick sand, a lot of people, if you don't ride fast on the sand and get on top of it, then you're really going to struggle. So, and they might might end up hurting themselves and really not enjoying themselves. If you have a crash there on that section over there, for example, I mean, you can easily do 160, 170 kilometers down there, and you don't know what you're doing, and you come off, you're going to get really badly hurt. So you do have to have a fair amount of experience, and it also depends on the kind of person, your competitive nature. Are you a balls to the wall kind of person, or you're going to go ride there and treat it as an adventure? And that's the big difference, I guess.
I love that. How hard are you going to hang on the cable?
Exactly. And the problem is, like I said, on a rally bike, when you come off, you come off. I mean,
and it's very hard. I mean, the ground is hard. Just talking about the speed, a lot of discussion about, first of all, the digital road book, but we'll leave that for now. But limiting the speed of the bikes for Dakar for next year. How far are those discussions? And are we going to try and implement that into some of the South African events?
I don't think we implement it in the South African events at the moment because it's very difficult to control because we don't have all the electronic capabilities on our normal dirt bikes. For example, at a GNCC series, the bikes are already up to 160 kilometers an hour there. The Dakar are quite far in discussions with looking at different ways of making the bike safer. And that includes a number of different things, electronic roadbook and other measures, which are still under discussion, and it will be released a little bit later on, closer to the end of the year when the regulations come out.
So they're talking airbags on as well, and okay, well, we'll leave that. We'll leave the speculation alone, and we'll wait for the facts, because that's what we're all about, the facts. Andrew, you must jump in when you got some questions, queries, and...
I do.
Oh, my word. So we do have a viewer.
We have a couple. Charles van der Walt, who's obviously done your event, says, please tell me we're going back to Van Sales Rust. The hotel there misses me. So Charles obviously excited. And we've had Mike Lawrenson come through, who says he's a previous winner of your event. And he says the navigation on that race is far more difficult than the SAC series, and it's a lot less like a sprint race than the SAC series, which I think is quite relevant, especially when you're looking at something like Dakar, where you are out there for days, and hours and hours at a time. It's hectic.
Yeah. Andrew, just to answer Chart, yes, we are going back to Van Sales Rus. We're actually going right into Kleinmeer. We, where Darryl said we had breakfast there. We actually have 3 nights in the Kleinmeer area, where they're basically close to Kalahari Transportive Park. Well, we use the local communities, the farmers' communities, and we use the farmers' hall, and we spend money with them. So we're trying to put back as much as we can as well in the communities, and they've been so instrumental of helping this make this event work. Giving us permissions and the land permissions. You're going to go through, like I said, 10, 15 farmers, councils and that. But those communities were phenomenal at the bivouacs. I mean, Darryl experienced it. That was an issue. I think that's a big part that guys enjoyed it, especially the Europeans as well. The Boere course and the Boere gemeente and the locals. That just that friendliness was really phenomenal. And then your coloured community in the Kleinmeer area, they're also such nice people. Nothing's an issue. From Mike Lawrence's comment, yesterday, Mike, he was in the Renault team. They won the first one. The Renault team won it again last. Yes, it was. I know Mike had some work first, and then between him and Johan, and in the car as well. And we came in, and he's like, "Oh, the navigation's the roadbook, this and that," and then we, had a chat. And as the guys started, as Darryl said in the beginning, as the guys adapted to their navigation ability, and as well as the driver with the navigator's skill, as they matched, and that's exactly the point I want to just touch on is the testing grounds. Obviously the qualifier for the bikes, and in the car aspect and the side by sides, specifically the cars that's built in South Africa. It's such a great platform for the manufacturers like Toyota, Nissan, the new Isuzu team with WCT Racing, they're building Ford, Neil Woolrich and them. So it's such a great platform to go and test their cars on a very, very similar level car. Obviously the dunes aren't as big, but it's the platform is right, the format is the same. And that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to do sprint racing. We've got our SAC series for that. We've got our GNCC or GXCC series for that. Rally Raid is what we want to cater for in terms of international rally, like the Dakar event. That South Africa can go and test there at a...
I think that's such a win. Just talking about the cost, absolutely very important. Just talking about WCT, was Mike's Renault WCT one of their dusters?
Yep.
Yeah,
And we saw Mike on the last Sachs event as well. A huge character, and can you imagine Andrew Thompson at some of these places? Stuart Thompson. At some of these places, there's trouble brewing for days and days and days. The question for Garth, the Northern Cape Tourism really got behind the whole Bloodhound project when they were at Huxken Pond. Have they embraced Kalahari Rally?
Colin, yes, absolutely. I actually had a long call yesterday with the marketing manager from Northern Cape Tourism, and they are getting on board. They got on board last year in a very small way, so we paid it forward, gave a bit of coverage. We pushed it when we did our European presentation tour, the Northern Cape, what available point of view, the Bushman experience, which we're also going to be doing that this year for the European competitors. South African competitors as well has never seen how Bushman makes fire, how they live out there in the Bushmen still literally live the way they did many years ago. They still live there out there. It's like a sanctuary. So that's quite an amazing experience. So we're going to bring that to the competitors' service cruise this year. And with that, Northern Cape Tourism has really partnered with us. From a financial point of view, obviously that's the BNN of it all. Right now, we just want to show the international competitors, South Africans as well. I mean, Darryl said to you, he's been to an area that he's never been to in his life, and it opened up South Africans' eyes. So if we can do that in our own country, they always say, travel your own country first before you go overseas. You don't know what you've got at home. And with the Europeans, they couldn't believe that we've got this in our backyard. And how come we not? The question was from the Europeans, why don't you have more races out there? You have this amazing experience, terrain. And it's a very, very valid and very good question. So the Northern Tourism is trying to push that a bit more, and that's why the motorsport aspect, because the area lends itself to it. The 1,000-kilometer-hour speed record they want to break. And then, funny enough, with the discussion yesterday is that we may move the bivouac to Huxken Pan as well, depending if we get the permission. And Northern Cape, because it is an site worldwide, so that might be on the cards for this year. And then just to push the Northern Cape tourist aspect for the Northern Cape Tourism. And this is the part that they really want us to help with, because what are you going to do out there unless you're a 4x4 enthusiast? And it doesn't really get out into the and read form for them to be able to do that and get it into the international 4x4 community.
One of the things that ASO has done so well, their other major event is Tour de France, and some say that that's a documentary about country lanes and country areas of France filled with cyclists. To a degree, Darryl, the Saudi experience and one of the reasons for Saudi wanting Dakar there was to boost their tourism and to show off some of the magnificent vistas and sites in Saudi. And surely we should, from a motorsport point of view in South Africa, from an ASO point of view, kind of adopt that same tourism environment supported by motorsport kind of thing, Darryl?
Absolutely. The ASO have done an incredible job, and it all comes down to budget at the end of the day. It all comes down to television time and sponsors. So if we're going to get a big sponsor, corporate sponsor for the Kalahari Rally, then you could start having more airtime, and you could start doing a little bit more with the tourism guys and showing a little bit more about these areas. But it's always very difficult to get a lot of airtime, and therefore quite limited to showing less of the scenery in that particular area for the event.
Now, Raceday is, we committed to covering this event, and I actually can't wait. And it's so popular from our point of view. We've got people kind of lined up who said, hey, listen, please, we also want to go. We need to feel the desert. We need to check this out. We want to feel the sands in there. Fritz, and I'm talking about you. And you've got to be a good boy, and you may be allowed to go along. So we also want to go and film these, because we were down there for the Bloodhound, and it is unbelievable. The there's something almost spiritual about that whole side of the country. It's truly magnificent. Just with the vistas and the sand and actually the air, it is a lot different. Darryl, for somebody who could, guys, a biker who thinks, hey, listen, this sounds lekker, I can actually go quite well, Dakar might be my dream, but let's see if I can make this thing. Would you give them some help in logistics, looking for partners? Can they get hold of you and say, help me, Darryl?
Absolutely. This is the starting point. I was at the Kalahari Rally last year. I was very impressed, and like you said, the open spaces is really what draws us to these areas. And I said to Garth, you have to have the guys sleeping out on plain meal pan or Huxley pan, because that's what makes it so special. I've got the 4x4 with a rooftop tent. I was in my element. That is my peace in the world, my freedom. When you're out there in these remote areas, it's
Darryl,
absolutely unbelievable.
You're cheating. You're not allowed to have a bloody rooftop tent. You've got to have a proper, that Dakar tent that flips out and open on the ground, man. You've got to do it properly.
No. I've done that enough. I'm over that. Now I've got everything in there. I've got fridge, freezer. I've got the lot, hot shower. And
you're a spoiled brat, man. We've anyway. Andrew Horndog, you've got questions.
I do. I think this will probably be for Darryl. And the question then comes from Ryan Bland. Tell us more about the Dakar ASO arrangement with this event. And he thinks we're going to see a lot more South African entries into the Dakar due to the qualification costs being lowered. Give us your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so at the moment it's a qualifying event, so free entry or anything like that is under discussion whether the guys would like to help, but as I said, still under discussion at the moment. At this point though, it is a qualifying round, which is already a huge saving for the motorcycle guys, being able to save 250,000 rand. So for a lot of guys, the budget for the Dakar with the qualifying round is a stretch too far. So it's already been welcomed. The guys are super happy, and the ASO would definitely like to get involved, but that's still under discussion. So I'm sure when that does happen, that the guys will make an announcement.
Okay, cool. I've got a follow-on question which comes from Henry Cohen that says, will you guys be using the ERTF navigation system like the guys at Dakar, or still the Garmin GPS units for tracking purposes? So I don't know if you or Garth can answer that one for us.
Okay, Andrew.
Garth,
okay, so go, Darryl.
No, go ahead. I was really impressed with your setup last year. The ERTF system, the costs are really exorbitant to get the guys out here because they don't just rent you the equipment. It comes with a whole package. The crew have to come out and manage it. It's very complex. It's extremely expensive with the Iridium technology inside these units. And I feel that what Garth put together at the last Kalahari Rally with the team that he had, I was actually completely blown away with the level that they were at, and they're going to improve it even more for this year. But Garth will tell us about it.
Okay, thanks, Darryl. Okay, so Andrew, to add on to that, what Darryl just said now, we've got, you use your GPS cap heading, or you use your GPS, whichever way. Obviously your navigation through your road book, but the instruments you need now, ERTF, for those who don't know, ERTF basically gives you a cap heading, you've got an arrow that you follow, and then obviously it syncs up to your it sends all information back to a rally control center, and that's how they manage data. Obviously, as you cross a waypoint, ERTF, new waypoint or the next waypoint that you can navigate to. Now, as Darryl said, it's a fantastic system. It's just South Africa, in terms of cost, we've got to keep it down for the South African competitors. Will we get there one day? I do believe so, because that is the benchmark. So currently what we do have is a live tracking system, which I will sort of brag about that. It was one of the better ones out there in the rally community, in the rally world. And it was one of our huge plus it came, it was really, really well received. So the tracking system is live for competitors, crews, and organization. There is behind the scenes one that obviously competitors can't see, that Darryl had full access to, which if he wanted any data from Constantine, which is our rally control, you could have it at a drop of a hat. And I think that was what I'd like to really sort of was a big game changer for us in terms of ASO and Darryl's overview of the event. And then the other part, we bring what we call a com box. It's pretty much, it's almost the same as a ERTF. It doesn't have the navigational directions yet, and I'll say that yet. But there's direct communication with the competitor. It's like an SMS or a message system. It's got a automatic speed accelerometer sensor. So if the guy crashes, it beeps it and it lets the competitor behind him know that's coming within 200 meters radius. There's a crash. So that was a big call from the competitor side. I wanted it, as being a competitor myself in the past, that's something I definitely wanted, and financially wasn't available or possible last year for us. But it was a big push this year, and I managed to pull it off. And Darryl's comments was as well that we needed to have something like that. So it just meant that we needed what we needed to do. And Constantine, our rally control center, was based they're based in Europe, so they fly out for the event and they run the event, that aspect for us. So that has been done. So the only part that we don't have is a little arrow that you've got to follow. If I can put it in simple terms in layman's terms for the man in the street that doesn't know really. So we're almost there. I believe 90 to 95% we'd like to be in terms of what ERTF or DAC organization is using in terms of navigation, that we are on that same standard. So when they done Kalahari, they can go to Dakar and they can navigate on exactly the same principle. And this is what ASO and Darryl's trying to achieve.
So the language of the road book and because I mean it's like the French, the letters and the words and all of that. That language, you've got a picture of the road book there, Fritzy. That language is the same in South Africa for your rally as well as for Dakar, is that correct?
100% correct, Colin. And that was when we had the presentation at Darryl's office a year ago with Darryl was there and he looked at our road book and said, but this is different to the normal Saks one. I said, yeah, well, I've raced rally and this is what rally is about, this is the road book. So you can see this in French tulips. There's all, as you can see, the 80 cap 80, and then you've got a dipping and a couple of there. So we do exactly the same, so that when you go to Dakar, you understand it's in French, of course not, but you understand you've got to study the lexicons. That's part of the fun. However, ASO moved to change the lexicons and the terminology, as now some of it's in English.
It's Fringlish.
Darryl might be able to speak on that. Darryl might be able to speak on that. For Rally du Maroc, they will be testing that out. The new lexicons, obviously the new electronic road book that he mentioned. But essentially Kalahari's road book is exactly the same. It's we would call it. We've already with the FIA ruling that changed it a couple of months ago, because that was one of the questions. This new one that's going to be implemented for 21 Dakar. Darryl, elaborate on the lexicons there.
So Darryl, do you do, as part of your assistance to help guys, do you help them understand the Fringlish and how to read the book? I mean, the instructions on the, there's a fat instruction manual on how it all works, isn't there?
Yeah, most definitely. And the lexicons are something that you have to learn. Like a river is the Rio, and a wadi or it's most of the 10 columns in the road book, and they scratch out the right-hand column. So, and then you write past all your relative information that you need to see. They will then write it in English in the middle column, and it just makes it so much easier that they can just read it at a glance and get that necessary information that they need to get. But the biggest thing between the two rallies, as far as your confirmation goes, and that's where the guys are missing the ERTF system. So talking about an open arrow just now. So at the Dakar, when you get within 800 meters of a masked waypoint, for example, then your cap heading on your GPS, which is, it's not a line that you're following, it's a number, 267 degrees, for example. And then an arrow will pop up, and you know, oh, thank goodness, I found the waypoint. When you get within 200 meters of it, it validates and it switches off. But you know that I found the waypoint. Where on Garth's one, your validation is, oh, there's the windmill or there's the reservoir. Yeah, okay, cool, I'm still on the same way. Or they get to a marshal. So that costs a lot of money, the ERTF stuff. So, you know, but certainly I help them understand all of the waypoint information, safety waypoints, masked waypoints, eclipse waypoints, and also every aspect about the Dakar, the safety behind Dakar, how it all works, and how to navigate. And of course,
guys, I think we're busy wearing out the internet at the moment because the comms are getting, they're going on lockdown and they're full of bloody bugs and stuff. Darryl, if somebody needs to get hold of you to have a chat and a bit of a word of advice, what's the best way? How can they get hold of you, Darryl?
They can email me. It's darryl@banditscience.co.za. That's the easiest way, or they could call me on my cell phone number. I can get that from Garth, or they can, you know,
or they
mention it here. But the guys are welcome.
Or they can hunt you down on the Facebooks.
Facebook, email, yeah, there's a number of ways. But I'm open to anybody contacting me. Try and help as many people as I can. If your dream is to do the Dakar Rally or the Kalahari Rally, I'm certainly there to help you.
Right, last comments from you, Andrew.
We've got viewers from as far as Dakar in Senegal, you'll be pleased to know. So there you go, Colin, you're not alone there. And just going back to the road book, Rob Howie did a great little feature earlier in the year during the Dakar on the ins and outs of the road book. Maybe what I'll do is I will get that link and stick it in the comment section. So anybody that is interested in the road book, you can refer to that link and have a look, see it, exactly what Rob went through from a navigation point of view.
I love your work, Andrew. That's why we allow you back every now and then. You're still under probation. I don't see your hat on your head. Garth, last thoughts from you on Kalahari Rally 2020 and the adventure into the sands.
Before I just talk about Kalahari, you know, Colin, I really have to, and from a Kalahari Rally organization, you know, discussion about getting Kalahari Rally and the road to Dakar has been about a year and a bit, and discussion. The work that Darryl has put into this has been phenomenal.
Oh man!
Find me the one day, listen, you know, and the groups through. Are we there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Carry on.
So.
Carry on.
All right. So the hoops that Darryl had to jump through was incredible, and he's still jumping through some hoops. And the work that he's put into it to make it happen, and you know, the from on Saturday night or Saturday morning when my phone did not stop ringing, WhatsApps, and you know, it just, how did you pull this off? Like, I don't know. Ask Darryl. You know, so this has been something that's been a work in progress, and I think for Darryl. The work he's put into Dakar in Southern Africa to get this off the ground has been phenomenal, and it was a matter of time. But it takes somebody like Darryl and ASO pushing it and making it happen for South Africa and South Africa specifically, and our South African competitors. So that was a huge achievement as far as that in that regard. And then from the Kalahari Rally the team, you know, the 2020. The Dakar Challenge has just like thrown us into a different frame of mind. You know, we pressure's up, but we're excited about it. We really the extras, the 2 or 3 stages we put into the sand dunes. Again, the comments from ASO, from Dakar, Darryl specifically. So that's why we've gone further to the Northern Cape, and this is why we're excited. I can't wait for these stages to start so we can get out there and, as you said, stick our toes in the sand. And Hopefully the lockdown won't have an effect on it. That's been, to be honest, it's looking at the news, we're watching the news every day, that this is not going to be the factor. But we may continue, but Kalahari Rally will be definitely an exciting event. And again, with Raceday TV being there, I think the coverage is going to be just phenomenal. So we extremely excited to get out there.
Hell, I'll tell you what, we're super excited as well. We've got some plans. Watch this space. Shit is going to get real. Darryl and Garth, thank you so much for joining us. And Darryl, I just got to thank you on behalf of all motorsport people for all the good and hard work you do for racing. Thank you for, and not just for this event, for all the lacquer stuff you do for motorsport and racing in South Africa. Thank you very, very much. And on that note, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and little furry animals, thank you for watching us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your comments, your queries, and your inputs. Join us sometime soon when we'll talk about other racing stuff. Andrew, Darryl, Garth, our viewers, thanks. Oh, and never mind that. To Fritz and to our legal team, to the catering team, and to Henk and to transport and the pets, the animal minders here. Thank you very much for joining us. Be safe, be lekker. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Thanks.